Minnesota and the Lakers win, or a win by New Orleans over the Lakers.
Yeah, Suns winning that game seems like they're going to somehow avoid the play-in after all of this stuff, jump up to that 6th seed. That's pretty amazing. And then the one seed we'll have to figure out, right? So if Denver and OKC win, where does it, is that OKC with the 1 seed then?
Yeah, so Denver needs OKC to lose.
Okay. So as long as they hold on.
Yeah.
As long as the Thunder hold on here, I think they're grabbing the 1 seed, and they got a 40-point lead or whatever, a 40-plus point lead.
Yes. All right, well, coming up next, we'll shift from the NBA. We'll look at the NFL draft. Ian Valentino from the 3013 checking in with us on the other side of VSiN Live Bet Sunday.
The thrill and excitement of March Mania is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, is giving new customers a shot to turn $5 into $150 instantly in bonus bets with any college basketball bet. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets, only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code VEGAS. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/bball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
The NBA playoffs are right around the corner. Let's take a look at the latest odds to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy. I'm Tim Murray from
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
So you see, son, good manners are important. Should I go through it again?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open. Don't speak with your mouth full. Keep your elbows off the table. Share your things, play nice, and generally treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day, making sure they brush their teeth, is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on Western Reserve Radio. Baseball Thursday, the Phillies beat the Pirates 5-1. Ranger Suarez improves to 2-0. Philadelphia 7-6. Pittsburgh drops to 9-4. Pirate starter Jared Jones went 6 1/3. He gave up 3 earned runs on 6 hits. He struck out 8 along the way, but also gave up a pair of home runs. The teams play again tonight in Philadelphia. Christopher Sanchez starts for the Phillies against Bailey Falter. The Guardians, Tigers, and Reds were all off on Thursday. Tonight, the Tigers host the Twins. Kenta Maeda starts for Detroit. The Guardians are home against the Yankees. Carlos Carrasco gets the nod. The Reds are on the road at Chicago to face the White Sox. Andrew Abbott slated to get the start. On the ice, in overtime, the Penguins beat the Red Wings 6-5. The result puts Pittsburgh in possession of the last wild card in the East, with Washington, Detroit, and Philadelphia just a point behind. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Flash. Chuck Sanders, Western Reserve Radio.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. Get 6 times longer lasting freshness plus odor protection with Downy Unstoppables in wash scent beads.
At Progressive, we know money can't buy you happiness, but money did help you buy an RV, which means an excuse from working Saturday with your insufferable coworker, Dave. So money is helping you listen to birds chirp instead of Dave chirping about how his toddler is fluent in 3 languages. And it's also why you'll be smelling pine trees in the air, not Dave's tuna melt reheating in a microwave. So save money by bundling your RV or boat insurance with home or auto from Progressive. And buy more happiness, or something close to it. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Phantom fans, welcome to Season 6, Episode 26 of the Dump and Chase podcast. For this show, we will recap the Phantoms' final weekend of the regular season against the NTDP U17s, and we look ahead to a quick turnaround as the Phantoms will welcome the Madison Capitals back to the Covelli Center for a USHL playoff first-round best-of-3 matchup. And for the first time, we welcome Phantoms head athletic trainer Amber Martinelli to the show. The Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio starts right now. So, Dan, how was your drive home Friday night?
Windy, loud, didn't get very good gas mileage. But it was also joyful because the Phantoms came back and had a good autograph signing.
But between the rain and the wind, you know how people after, years after the Final Destination movies, if they're behind a truck like hauling lumber or something like that.
Absolutely.
They have like this like Final Destination PTSD. I was having that from like the movie Twister. Because I'm on Route 14 between Columbiana and Washingtonville, and it's just this long straight stretch, and it's just pouring down rain. You can see the wind like blowing the rain on the road as you're driving along. You're getting whipped all over the place. I was waiting for like a lightning strike to where you would see a tornado like 200 yards off in the distance coming at me.
Right.
And
you're trying to peer into fields to see a metal pipe sticking up on the ground where you could tie yourself to.
It's just, oh my God. Yeah, that was just pouring down rain the whole way there, and then the rain and the wind the whole way home.
Yeah, 15-minute drive home for me kind of makes that a minor inconvenience. So
yeah. Well, usually I have about a 35-minute drive home. It took me about 45 minutes. I was not able to go the speed limit without fear of my vehicle being blown off the road. Another byproduct of the storms we had come through the area last night, apparently, as it turns out, right now, God just hates Justin. Anybody, listening to last week's show, we had talked about that Justin would be going to the Saturday game up in Plymouth, which is actually we're recording, after this game is over. Justin was supposed to be going to that game. He actually lost power Friday night. So he had some stuff to deal with at home, did not make the trip up to Plymouth. And as of the time we got started now, his power is not back on, and he is in no way, shape, or form able to be on this episode.
And I think going back to our first episode when we had the tornado sirens, I think the last thing we said to him before we got offline quickly was, hopefully don't lose power.
Yeah.
Didn't know it would be 6 months later he did, but...
Yeah. So Justin will not be joining us in this episode, except for our segment with Phantom Files with Amber Martinelli. We actually recorded that a few days ago, so he was there for that. So you will hear him during the interview. But for the rest of the episode, we're down to a 2-man booth.
I think we'll do all right.
Because, Dan, I'd hate to say it. Mother Nature screwed with my car, now screwed with Justin's power. You're next on the list.
I've heard the saying, bad things come in 3, but keep that away from me.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're next. All right, so moving on to some news and whatnot. Of course, Boston College earlier this evening ended up losing their game with Denver in the college national finals. Lost that game 2-0. So, obviously not the result we were hoping for, when talking about former Phantoms Jacob Fowler and Jack Malone on that Boston College squad. But definitely, heck of a season. I don't know how many more expectations Fowler could have exceeded this season than what he did.
Oh, you could ask him. He'd probably say one more. But it was a heck of a run. BC had a very young squad, a lot of young freshmen. We'll see how many of them come back for next year. But it was fun seeing all those former Phantom alumni competing at the NCAA level this year.
I have a feeling quite a few of them are going to be signing their NHL contracts here in the next month or so.
Yeah.
And now going back to our episode last week, apparently somehow all the things that we do, all the things we try to do, this has become our most viral moment. You steal one Kit Kat from a child and you become a villain.
Right. Yeah. And my son loves that. Just let you know that. And for those of you wondering what we're talking about, Sam did steal a Kit Kat from my son last week in good fun. And I had three people come up to me during the game saying they should have brought my son a Kit Kat bar to replace the one that Sam got. So Sam, I said this earlier. Are you the villain? I don't know, but you're definitely not the hero in this situation.
But see, people seem to be forgetting the first part of that story. He had 6 of them. It wasn't like he went out and mowed the grass and you gave him $1 and he spent it on that Kit Kat and then I snatched it out of his hands and just ate it right in front of him. He had 6 in his hand and it wasn't one that he paid for.
But as you saw in the vending machine this past weekend, you understand now why you got 6. Yeah. How they're stacked.
Yeah, they were all stacked up again. Probably some of the players heard it and they're thinking, hey, I can get 6 out of this.
Yeah. Maybe next time the players are offered to him as they walk by.
20 something episodes, hopefully many more to go. This is what everybody's going to take away from this season is that damn Kit Kat bar.
I know one person won't forget.
Yeah. So with the USHL regular season wrapping up today, we now know actually we knew yesterday, but when it's all said and done, Madison will be coming to the Covelli Center. Game 1 Monday night. We will be, of course, getting into that and other playoff matchups later on in the show. So yeah, and we're going to get into this a lot more later. This is going to be an interesting one with Madison. Honestly, this could be the way the season series went. This could end up being a coin flip.
Yeah, it all depends on the team that the Phantoms come out with. We know when they're firing all cylinders, they're unstoppable. Anything less than that, Madison's a good team. They're kind of peaking at the right time, so it's going to be a heck of a matchup.
All right, so with that, we're going to take a quick break. The weekend recap is coming up next with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Mahoning Valley's leader for golf, Milk Creek Golf Course is now booking tee times for 2024. We offer stay and play opportunities available with 9 area hotel partners. For more information, visit our website at millcreekmetroparks.org. Also, look for new, exciting opportunities coming soon, including an indoor player development center with Trackman, an indoor Callaway Club Fitting Center, and an Odyssey Fitting Studio in 2024. Follow us on Facebook at Milk Creek Golf Course or call 330-740-7112.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We're back with the Dump and Chase podcast on the home of Phantoms Hockey, Western Reserve Radio. So for the final weekend of the regular season, the Phantoms a home and home with the NTDP U17 squad. And again, for the first time in Phantoms history, the Phantoms ending the season on the road, which the way it's gone lately still pretty much ended the same way the past so many seasons have.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even see any pictures on social media from the concert tonight at the Cavelli Center, which is what kicked them away for tonight.
Yeah. Don't ask me who was at Cavelli tonight. I've now heard it 4 times and I still don't remember.
And I've told you 3 of them.
I still don't remember who it was. So we will kick this off with the game on Friday at the Cavelli Center. This was a 5-3 win for the Phantoms. Youngstown, very lackluster first period. Kind of took them almost to the halfway point of the second period before they, finally woke up, I guess would be a good term, because this was a lethargic group throughout the first period and the very beginning of the second period.
Yeah, you just kept waiting for them to kick it into gear. You know, they have had slow starts in the past, but it's never taken them a period and a half to get going. And luckily they did. I think against a different team, maybe they would have been buried a little bit more than 3-0. But the NTDP, they did have a lot of good chances in that first period there. But tell you what, it does feel a whole hell of a lot better coming back by 3 goals and giving up a 3-goal lead.
Yeah. Yeah, so Youngstown, by the 2:17 mark of the second period, Youngstown was down 3-0. Started to crawl their way back in. One of Dan's favorites, Evan Jardine, back with the Phantoms after his run with Little Caesars. So he's back with the Phantoms for the remainder of the season. Evan Jardine getting on the board with his 6th of the season. And then there towards the end of the second period on the power play, Charlie Serrato with a laser from the right face-off dot.
I think that's an accurate description too. That was an absolute laser.
Getting the Phantoms within 1. So going into the third period, Youngstown down 3-2. Only took 34 seconds into the third period. Nathan Lewis catching USA napping a little bit. Ties the game up for Youngstown. And then here we go again. Evan Jardine getting the game winner for the Phantoms, going up 4-3. Halfway through the third period. That was on the power play. And then Adam Pantilla at the 1904 mark with his 24th of the season. Probably the hardest he's ever had to work for an empty net goal.
You're absolutely right. That could have been the hardest he had to work for any of his 24 goals this year.
Yeah, had to skate down to beat out an icing. Basically get positioning, on his man to be able to gather the puck back up and wrap it around into the net.
And I think he was on the ice there for a good while too.
Yeah.
So you saw after he scored, he just dropped the ice. That's all he had right there.
Yeah, that took some effort for an empty net goal for sure. But that would give the Phantoms the 5-3 lead, and that would end up being the final score. Aiden Wright getting the win in this game, stopping 23 of 26. Aiden, looked a little shaky at the beginning of the game. Completely locked it down the rest of the way.
Right, and that's what people do. That's what good goalies do. They kind of block out past things and they look forward to the future. And he did a great job after that, like you said.
Yeah, a couple notes from this game. Charlie Serrato is a man beast.
Absolutely. How cool was that the whole arena was chanting his name
when he came back?
Yeah.
U17's Richard Gallant picking up a 5-minute major for boarding in a game misconduct. You can definitely say about Charlie, he left it all on the ice. Possibly a pint or two.
I didn't realize there was that much blood on the ice until he got up and started skating away.
I was up in the press booth, so from our vantage point, you could see a couple little splatters.
Yeah,
and that was all you could see when the ice crew came out and they had with that scraper and they did that first scrape, and you just saw blood go everywhere. Yeah. I about threw up.
It almost looked like there was another face-off dot out there.
Yeah, that was. And it like froze right to the, I don't know, Charlie's cold-blooded or what, but that stuff, that froze right to the ice. It took him a little while to scrape it up.
Yeah, I wonder if his blood type's different than it did to him.
Oh my gosh. That just froze to the ice as soon as it hit. They had a heck of a time getting that cleaned up.
Yeah.
Then it's, let me see here. This would be Evan Jardine's power play goal in the third period. Andrew Strathman getting his 32nd assist of the season. And that would be the one that gives him 100 points in the USHL. He's only the fifth defenseman in the USHL Tier 1 era to hit the 100-point mark. So, I mean, we're not surprised by any way, shape, or form watching the performance he gave last year. But, definite congratulations to Andrew Strathman. 100 points as a defenseman, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No, it's, as you said, take a bow, Stratty. That's consistency, and he's out there in high-stress situations. He's out there in power play. He's killing penalties. So he's out there for every facet of the game, and he's making an impact, obviously, when he's out there.
So with Youngstown getting at least 1 point in this game, that solidified, at the very least, a home series to start out the playoffs. Unfortunately, neither Green Bay or Madison or Muskegon cooperated on Friday night. So basically, by the time the game was over on Friday, well, actually about a half an hour after our game ended,
right?
Found out Youngstown was locked into fourth place.
Yeah, maybe it was a little bit better. It allowed us to foreshadow, have some players get a little extra day of rest.
Yeah. So Youngstown this weekend took care of what they needed to take care of. Nobody else cooperated with them on that.
No.
So moving on to the Saturday game, the one that just ended here a little while ago. This may be the quickest we've ever done a recap after a game is over. So this one was a 4-3 win for the Phantoms. And right away, the lineup chart comes out. A good chunk of the Phantoms lineup not dressing for this game. Whether they even traveled or not, I don't know. But with such a quick turnaround and Madison coming up on Monday and knowing that, like you said, knowing that they were locked into the 4 spot, I think it's the longest scratch list we've seen this season. I know there's some games earlier in the season it might have been close, but
right,
a nice healthy scratch list. At least we can say that. Talking like Serrato, Botterill, a lot of these guys, Aiden Wright given the night off, although Aiden Wright was listed as an illness. So,
right.
But yeah, so seeing a lot of the younger guys with some, a couple of the veterans mixed in, but, getting to see a lot of the younger guys, kind of almost in a way, seeing a little bit of a preview of next season.
Absolutely. And it also forces some of the guys who maybe have not had to step up all year, step up in a situation and kind of take being a point man out there. And, I was happy with what I saw. In a game where it didn't matter whether you win or lose on paper. Of course, you want to win every time you step on the ice. But the compete level didn't have to be there, and it was. And they came away with a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. So once I scroll down here, there we go. So the NTDP at the halfway point of the first period, getting on the board first, going up 1-0. And then goals by Kuzma Voronin, that was on the power play, his 10th goal of the season. And then Luke Osborne, who did you know is from Plymouth?
Oh, I think I may have heard that once or 100 times.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Luke Osborne is from Plymouth, picking up his 8th of the season. So going into first intermission, Youngstown with a 2-1 lead. Minute 22 into the second, U17's Will Moore would tie the game at 2. Followed up about a little less than 4 minutes later, Michael Monroe picking up his second goal of the season to put Youngstown back up 3-2. And then Colson Hanrahan picking up his second at the 9:27 mark. Youngstown goes up 4-2, and that would be the score going into the third period. The NTDP on the power play at 6:01. Donnie Brasco get pulling at the NTDP within 1, but that would be as far as they would get. Youngstown getting the win 4-3, and our old friend Colin Wynn getting the start today. He ended up stopping 18 of 21. We haven't seen Colin in a while. Great game for him.
Yeah, it was again another high-end game with a lot of he had to make some real good saves, and he did well. He played well enough for the Phantoms to get a win tonight. And it was nice to see him in that.
Yeah, the U17s had the season that they had, but those are still high quality shots being thrown at him. And I mean, he was more than up to the task today. Really happy to see Colin's performance.
Yeah, and I would say the 17s, I'm not comparing them from the 12-0 defeat the first time we saw them this year, but they have really gotten a whole lot better as the season's progressed, obviously. And, that was a stiff test this weekend. I thought they played well.
So the Phantoms pick up 4 points on the weekend. We talked about earlier, we had Mikey Burchell on the show a couple weeks ago, and he told us, this was a team that, from here to the end of the season, they're already playing playoff hockey.
Yeah.
Over the Phantom, and then all the games since that interview, the 7 games that have been played since that interview, the Phantoms ended up going 5-0-2 in those 7 games. So a 12 out of possible 14 points. That's how Youngstown finished out the season.
Yeah, the message was sent. He wasn't lying when he said it. He just wasn't giving us what we wanted to hear.
So, definitely Youngstown ending this season on a high note coming into the playoffs.
Yeah. Speaking of ending the season here, I have a stat list for you real fast to run.
Okay.
Something I didn't even think about, but I looked, and this year the Phantoms ended with 230 goals for, 206 against. That is the second most goals in franchise history in a season in the regular season.
Very good.
Yeah, they in 2014, 2015, they had 233. Do you remember what happened that year?
I wasn't around yet.
Oh, that was the year they won the Anderson Cup.
Oh, okay.
And last year the Phantoms finished with 225 in the season. Just let it be known from 2017 down, it was a 60-game season. But I did not realize that they had this the second most they scored all year in a season.
See, this is the one that makes me laugh, and I'm calling this unofficial just because my numbers do not match up with the USHL website.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also triple checked these numbers, and mine are correct according to all of the box scores this season. And the USHL websites is not. So Youngstown finishing this season with a plus 272 as far as shot differential.
That's incredible.
What's even more incredible, Chicago last in the Eastern Conference. I don't know about the league, but last in the Eastern Conference with negative 632.
I used incredible for the wrong adjective.
Chicago last, at least in the Eastern Conference, negative 632 shot differential. The next closest team to them was Green Bay with a negative 222.
Wow.
Yeah. That was one of those things. I noticed how bad Chicago was getting outshot, so I tracked it all season, and that's how it ended up.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have one line that can be a predominant threat to score goals.
All right. So as we've been doing all season, we've been doing the 3 stars of the game. Now with the regular season over, as we did last year, I went through all of our episodes this season to see who we named 3 stars of the week in all of these episodes. And again, the same as last year, a player getting a 3rd star gave them 1 point, 2nd star would give them 2 points, and 1st star would give them 3 points. So went through and added all of these up throughout this entire season. So now that we're down at the end of the regular season, we're going to be going with what we're calling the 5 stars of the season. Now, the thing you will notice is that the top 5 point getters are all forwards. So I will mention the honorable mentions, Aiden Wright, who ended up with a total of 7 points, and Sasha Boumedian, who ended up with a total of 8 points. So goaltender, defenseman, I will bring that up, that they were right up there with them. So getting the 5th star of the season with 9 points is Grant Young.
Yeah, he's somebody I did not expect to have the year that he had. Not that I thought it was going to be a bad year by any means, but he was a very pleasant surprise to me this year.
Yeah, a couple real good hot stretches there.
Right.
The 4th star, which kind of makes it bittersweet since he no longer is available for the rest of this season, with 10 points, was Braden Clark.
Man, that's what a shame that he ended up taking that season-ending injury. I didn't realize he had that many. He was on the list so often in a short amount of time he was with us this year, but heck of a season for him.
Yeah, just great play on the ice, great leadership. So a little bittersweet on that one. Going on to the number 3 star with 11 points, that is Charlie Serrato.
What can you say about him that hasn't already been said?
Yeah.
He's Mr. Everything for us.
Just leaving blood, sweat, and tears on the ice, and recently mostly blood on the ice for what he did for the team this season. The 2nd star goes to Adam Patilla with 12 points.
Yeah, and I'll defer to what you said when you asked his cousin Chase last year what to expect from him. And he was spot on. Patilla led the team in PIMS and second in goals and everything else. He was a heck of an addition this year.
And then the 1st star of the season, that goes to Ryan Botterill with 19 points. And so I guess when this is all said and done, the runaway number one here.
Yeah, and is he on this list at number one 4 weeks in a row?
So he got pretty close there a couple times.
Yeah. What a player.
Yeah. Somebody brought in from Canada actually right before main camp started. This was something they were working on, was finally able to get him into a Phantoms jersey just a couple of days, just a handful of days before main camp.
Yeah. And if you ever want to wonder why the GMs were in the spot they were in and we were all sitting down watching the game.
Yeah.
Because they can pull somebody like Ryan Botterill out from Manitoba and him come here and produce the way he did. That's unbelievable.
All right, so that will do it for the weekend recap. We're going to step aside for a quick minute. When we come back, we will welcome Phantom's head athletic trainer, Amber Martinelli, to the show for this week's edition of Phantom Files, and the only segment in this show that we'll get to hear from Justin. So keep it here with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
We are back with the Dump and Chase podcast on the home of Phantoms Hockey, Western Reserve Radio. So for this edition of Phantom Files, we welcome a guest for whom we have received a lot of shame. And by that, I mean, we have been asked by many people inside and outside of the Phantoms organization, how have you not had her on the show yet? And while I shoulder that blame in my defense, she may be one of the busiest people in this organization. So without further ado, we finally welcome Phantoms head athletic trainer, Amber Martinelli, to the show. Amber, I guess better late than never. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be on tonight. Yeah, I've always wanted to be on. So now that I hear that I've been asked to be on, I'm glad I am.
Is it just Smitty makes it seem like it's that much fun, or?
Maybe it's that. I hear that he's on, the boys being on and everything. I'm like, I'd always want to be on this. So no, it's probably does have a lot to do with Smitty. I get a little jealous that he's on so often. And I'm
he's going to love hearing that.
All right.
All right. So the biggest question I want to ask you right off the bat, as a starting pitcher for the Capital University women's softball team, which are you more proud of? Being named to the All-Ohio Athletic Conference second team 2 years in a row, or your 10 strikeout complete game you threw against Ohio Northern in 2017?
I would think probably I was not expecting questions like this. You guys really did some digging. I'm impressed.
Sam has done his research.
Right, yeah. I would probably say the first one, the two-time name to, I don't even remember, all of Ohio Athletic Conference.
Yep.
Gosh, it's been that long. But probably that one, just because I wasn't really a strikeout pitcher. I threw a lot of movement. So my goal would always be to just have girls hit ground balls and get the outs. That was my biggest thing. But it's funny that you bring that up, because we always talk about, so where our practice rink is at Deep Freeze, there are those fields next door. So I'm from Pittsburgh originally. So when I was younger, I actually used to travel to Youngstown a lot and play at the fields next to the Deep Freeze, Field of Dreams. So we always talk about, because we've had some baseball players from our time, from the teams, I guess, in the past, this year we have Ryan Botterill, who plays baseball too, was a pitcher. So we always talk about going there next door and playing a little pickup game. And I was like, all right, I'll pitch to you guys. I'm going to strike everybody out. And, we have Coach Ward and all the guys always say, oh, we're going to hit dingers off of you. Like, you won't be able to strike us out. So one of these days we're going to get over there.
Yeah, just every once in a while I like to do a little deep dig and kind of surprise you guys a little bit.
That really threw me off. I was like, hang on. I wasn't expecting to start off with something, like that. So, yeah, that was great.
I guess going from that, from your time at Capital University, like what was your journey to becoming an athletic trainer?
So I actually wanted to be an athletic trainer ever since I was probably in 8th grade. So I was kind of, I guess, backwards. So I played softball my entire life. And, typically you're looking at schools because you want to play that sport and then you declare a major. I was the other way around. I was trying to find schools that had athletic training where I could do both softball and athletic training. And that wasn't easy to do because you play softball all year round. I mean, nowadays you play your sport all year around regardless. So for me, it was, okay, where can I go to have that happy medium where I could still play softball and go to school for what I want to do? Because when I wasn't playing softball, I was usually at my clinical rotation, whether that be with football, volleyball, any sport. So as I was looking for schools, I wanted to stay close to home, but I wanted to get far enough away where, it wasn't in my backyard. I ended up finding Capital in Columbus, and I went there for my 4 years of undergrad, and I loved it. Columbus is a great city. It's a lot different from Pittsburgh because everybody always asks me, which city did you like better? And I can't really compare because Pittsburgh has such an old feel compared to Columbus. That's starting to get a little bit more modern. With Capital, I started working at a high school. And I know this is kind of, you're probably wondering why did I go work in softball or baseball? Because that's what I grew up playing. My dad was a huge hockey fan growing up. I had cousins that played, but a big Pens fan. I'm a huge Pens fan still. I'm wearing my Pens hat right now. But so that's kind of, I hope that answers your question. I know I'm pretty long-winded with my answer. So I hope that answers your question. I've always wanted to be an athletic trainer and work mainly with hockey. But yeah, I mean, I think just being around sports my whole life, I love it so much. I didn't want to do anything else. And I don't think with my personality and my like I said, attention span before we started this recording, a cubicle job would be good for me. So I think it's good that I'm up and moving at all times and I'm hands-on and busy with everything I do.
Now, how is it you ended up coming to the Phantoms?
So contracts through UPMC. I've been with UPMC since 2018. Like I said, I graduated undergrad in 2017, worked for a different company for a short period of time. And then UPMC had an opening with the Pittsburgh Pens Elite AAA youth organization. I applied for that. I was kind of like, hey, this is something I wanted to do. They had just opened up Lemieux Complex in Cranberry in 2015. And I always said to myself, that would be so awesome to work there because they have 2 rinks there. They had the medical building attached to it. And I was like, that would be such a cool facility to work there, to work with the hockey teams and whatnot. I saw that position open up. I applied, was hired there, spent 2 years with them before I decided to go back to school at Pitt to get my master's in sports medicine. And at that time, COVID hit. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect time. So right in 2020, I went back to school and then got my master's. So I was applying to different positions just because hockey positions are few and far between. I mean, it's really hard to find open positions, especially if you don't have connections. As I was looking, it was getting towards the end of summer. I was starting to get nervous. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like I'm going through all these interviews. I'm just not loving them, or they're not a good fit for me. And I'm like, oh, they just aren't feeling right. Well, then I got a phone call about this position being open with the Phantoms and if I'd be interested. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is a sign. I would absolutely be interested. So at the time, I was actually already applying for my Ohio license because you need a license to work in the state. So I have PA and Ohio license. And I was already in the process of applying for that because there was another position open in Ohio that I was interested in at the time. But then this came up and I was like, all right, it's good that I already started this process because they've always said, look, who knows how long this process is going to go. So then I ended up here. Can't believe I'm already almost done with my second year being with the team. It just goes so fast, but that's how I ended up here.
All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit with my question. I see like pregame, I sit pretty close to the behind the bench. I think there's like a lot of pregame routines that go on, namely with like the snap and sniff, like smell.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
How many do you go through in a game? And does anybody have like a specific, like, that's mine, or who starts it? Does anybody start it every single time?
Yes. So we actually are, I mean, even before we get on the bench, there are some pretty, I don't want to say bizarre because I don't think that's the right word, but everyone has their certain superstitions, certain routines, and, you know, whatever they want to do. That like I've said, I've had some interesting ones in the past that I know players do. And I'm like, okay, you do your thing, whatever works. As long as you're not harming yourself, I don't care what it is. So, I mean, with the smelling salts, we just got those new ones where you kind of crack and, you know, sniff them. For a while, they stopped selling those. I think it's because of COVID, but we used to have the little ones in the bottles that we would shake. I don't know why, but Smitty would always get so mad at me because when we had the ones in the bottle, I would go through probably one of those like twice a month, and he'd have the same one for like 3 to 4 months straight. He's like, what are you doing? Why are you going through so many of these? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I keep it in my kit. Maybe it's the way they're stored. Maybe it's the temperature. I have no clue. So I used to go through those like clockwork. Now that we have the little ones that you crack, we go through 3. So every period you start with 1. So I usually pass it off to, usually it's Adam Patilla who's the first one. But again, since we switched sides, so like forwards, it's usually him. With the D, it's a little different. Usually it's Junior, but I always end with, regardless of who's on my side, forwards or D, Colin Wynn always ends with it. And then he'll pass it to me. And then I actually even sniff it before every period too. I don't know why. I like the smell of it. I feel like it dials me in too. Now, Tommy and I have Tommy, we started getting him on the bench with us. Tommy Malloy, he's our strength coach. We started getting him on the bench with us for home games. He doesn't travel with us for away games, but for home games, he goes on with us now. So him and I, Smitty doesn't know this, but him and I crack one in the tunnel before we go out and snip one together, and then we head out on the bench. So we all have our weird routines that we do before the game. But
okay, so you come in last season, and it's not only you; it's just kind of this whole group of people that all came into the team for the first time. I mean, you, Wardo, Smitty, Brandon Dennis, Tommy Malloy, all coming in together. Just kind of as crazy as the season as it was, and that's your first year, and like skipping ahead to the Cleveland Classic. I think every time I saw you during that day, you just had this smile on your face, like you slept with a coat hanger in your mouth, like that whole time at the Cleveland Classic.
Yeah.
And I think I heard you say to somebody as you were passing by that you were looking around the stadium and you're like, what is my life now?
Yeah.
Something to that effect. And then ending it all, with the team winning the Clark Cup. So, I guess I'll go to the question I've asked, a lot of other people. I haven't got the chance to ask you yet. So going all the way back to game 3, almost a year ago, game 3, that clock hit 0. What's going through your head?
I mean, I think about that day every day. There hasn't been a day where I'm getting like emotional talking about it, thinking about it right now. It actually took me a while to be able to I don't want to say move on from it because that's just something you don't move on from, but kind of process it more. I think, like you said, I mean, we all came in not knowing anybody. And I would say that's players included. We didn't know each other. And so we really had to work to build our relationships with each other. And I'm a huge relationship person. And I for my job alone, that's a huge part of it. And that builds players' trust. So, I had really good relationships with a lot of the players from last year. And the returners this year, we have a really good relationship this year as well. I think that just made it stronger. But I mean, it was a lot of work to kind of get to know those players, for them to, even get to know the other staff members, our coach, my coaches, Tommy, and get to know them better. And then, it's crazy to think our year, how ended, like you said. I can't even put it into words right now, how we, made it that far. And we were able to win the whole thing. I think I was just smiling, like you said, like with a coat hanger in my mouth. I think that's how you, I'm always smiling regardless, but it's funny you made that comparison, but like, I always am smiling. And I think that's all I did was smile. And then I think at one point I started crying, just tears of joy, because I was so proud of everyone. And, you know, the confetti and everyone smiling and hugging. And I was just trying to find everybody and just hug everyone. I'm a big hugger. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. And I mean, I was just so proud of all the boys. And
so, I mean, hockey players are notorious for trying to play through any injury possible. How hard is it to manage these guys, and who, you know, are they fairly responsible? And what's the worst thing you've seen somebody in hockey try to play through and be like, what are you doing? Without naming names.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, these guys are at the age, and I sound like a broken record when I say this to them, but they're at the age where they know their bodies well enough. There's, you know, everyone likes to say there's a difference between being injured and being hurt. If they're injured, I mean, that's a whole different thing. You're good luck trying to play if you're wanting to play, because I'm not going to allow that to happen. If you're hurt, let's say you blocked a shot, that's a different story. You can play through that. I'm okay with that. But if it's something, you know, head injuries, things like that, those are things I don't mess around with. That's just not how I am. I don't want to say I'm conservative, but I would say I am a little bit along the lines of I rather have them be safe and not try to toughen it out, because they do try to. So hockey players are tough. They're tough athletes. That's just how they are. And they think, okay, this is wrong, but I'm going to try to play through it. But you know, sometimes you got to say, hey, let's pump the brakes here. Let's make sure everything's all right before we just try to play through something that could potentially prolong recovery or make things worse for you. Like I said, I don't try to look ahead, but for their sake, you know, they're going into school, potential drafts. I'm like, you know, let's hold off here and make sure that we don't have anything wrong. I mean, I'm usually, you know, so going back to your main question with how hard is it, or when, you know, having the players try to play through things when they shouldn't. Luckily, fortunately, I don't have to deal with that too much. I mean, sometimes it does pop up, and, you know, I kind of have to have that like little sit down, like, here's the deal. This is, you know, I run them through like, here's what might happen if you try to play through, and here's what happens if you don't play through. I like to give them, you know, the both sides of it. And then it kind of, they come to their senses and they're like, okay, you know, and then there's times where they can't really make out how bad it is. They try to give it a go. And then they're like, you know what? This isn't for me. And I'm like, all right, then let's take a further look at it next week or whenever it might be and go from there.
All right. So my last question for you, and as excited as I was to kind of blindside you with the softball one, I'm even more excited about this one. So here, you know, a little over a month ago, Ryan Ward takes a puck to the forehead. Now, we've heard his side of the story. He's played it off cool and everything else. So, you know, being on the other side, I mean, what kind of a patient is Ryan Ward? You know, and, you know, when you're there on the other end of it, you know, going into the locker room and he's got this, you know, bleeding head wound.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's funny. Well, that was crazy that even happened. I'll just give you the background of it from my perspective too. I don't know if he's told you this on a show or not, but I wish I would have heard his side of the story, but that's okay. I mean, we were all, you know, 13 seconds left in the third period, and I didn't even know the puck hit him in the forehead, to be honest with you. I thought it hit the glass, but then I look over at him and he puts his hand up to his forehead and he looks down at it. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, that just hit him and he's bleeding. I'm going to be honest with you. And I even told him this, so he knows this. I don't think I've ever sprinted faster on the bench, because our bench is pretty tight. I don't think I've ever ran faster on that bench to somebody than I did to him, because I was afraid he was going to start gushing. So I get over to him and I throw the towel on his head. I'm like, all right, let me take a peek at it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a huge gash. And he's like, no, it's not. I was like, I'm not joking. Like, I'm pretty sure you're going to need some stitches. And so he grabs the towel out of my hand and he's holding the towel over his head. And everyone's like, you got to get off the bench. You got to get off the bench. He's like, there's 13 seconds. I'm staying on. So he stays on for the rest of the game. And then him and I was like, as soon as the game's over, we're walking immediately to the locker room. You're going to go get that fixed. We'll take care of it. So we're walking off to the locker room. I hate to admit this. This is going to sound awful, but like my initial reaction, and this probably won't surprise you since we've already discussed I smile a lot, but I started laughing. But I'm also one of those people who laugh and like, because I'm like, oh no, like this is not that that it's awkward, but I'm like, that's just my initial reaction to things sometimes is laughing. Other people were laughing too, so it wasn't just me.
We know that's been that's everybody we've talked to. Yeah,
including
his wife.
Yeah, I laughed. I laughed because I didn't be anything crazy. Well, obviously it was. Then that's when I had to dial it in and be serious. So he was actually awesome. He's a great patient. I kind of gave him the same rundown as if I would give anybody else who got a face laceration and needed sutures for it. You know, he'd call me with questions if he had anything that he needed to ask. Luckily, his mom was in town and she's a nurse. So I was like, okay, cool. She's a nurse. She will be able to take care of you as well.
Okay, so we have been talking to Phantom's head athletic trainer, Amber Martinelli. Amber, my profound apologies that it took this long to get you on the show. And thank you for carving out a few minutes of your time to chat with us.
No, thank you for having me. I'll forgive you for waiting this long to have me on. No, this was a great experience. I really enjoyed my time chatting with you guys and answering your questions. Hopefully I answered them, all your questions. Okay, like I said, I'll still think it. Next time I see you guys in person, I'll keep racking my brain around that question where somebody tried to fight through something. But like I said, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But no, thank you guys so much for having me on. It was a good time.
All right. So with that, we're going to take a short break. The playoff preview is coming up next with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast on the home of Phantoms Hockey, Western Reserve Radio. And just as a programming note, if you are listening to this episode on one of the Western Reserve Radio streams, what you actually heard with the Amber Martinelli interview was a condensed version of that interview. If you would like to hear the full version of that interview, you can check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Unless that's how you're listening to it now, then you heard all of it. So yeah, season's over. The first round matchups are set. We're going to start with, actually, you know what? We'll start with the Western Conference. That'll make more sense. So as far as the Western Conference, Fargo and Sioux City picking up the 1 and 2 seeds, so they will get the first round bye. Waterloo will be hosting Lincoln, and Tri-City will be hosting Sioux Falls in the first round in the West. So now moving over to the East, Dubuque, of course, the number 1 seed in the East. Muskegon by them getting 2 wins this weekend, and Green Bay falling in overtime, or actually falling in a shootout to Madison here tonight. Muskegon jumps Green Bay up into the number 2 seed. So Dubuque and Muskegon with the first round byes. Green Bay will be hosting Chicago. And of course, now what we're going to be talking about, Youngstown will be hosting Madison in the first round. As far as these matchups, the winner of Green Bay and Chicago will be playing Muskegon in the second round, and the winner of Youngstown Madison will be playing Dubuque in the second round. So, I mean, that's a heck of a prize to win the first round.
It is. To be honest with you, I mean, you have to beat each team anyways if you want to get along. Yeah. But I'm happy where we're at. I like our path to victory here.
Yeah. So Green Bay versus Chicago. Actually, this one kind of a surprise. Chicago actually won this season series with Green Bay. 6 wins, 2 losses, and in either an overtime or shootout loss. I'm not sure which one.
That is so surprising. And
yeah, Chicago going 6-2-1 against Green Bay this year. So Chicago as the 6th seed playing Green Bay as the 3 seed.
Yeah, after crushing them in a season series. And I think, and you see 2 teams there with traversing patterns of where they're going. One seems to be going up, one seems to be going down. So we'll see. But all that doesn't matter because this is a brand new season now we're entering.
Yep. All right. So Youngstown and Madison playing 6 games this season. Youngstown winning that season series. They were 3-1-2 against Madison. October 20th, going all the way back, Youngstown winning that game against Madison 3-2. October 29th, Madison picking up the win 4-3 in overtime. And then February 16th, Madison winning that game 5-4. And then February 17th, Youngstown winning that game 4-2. And then the last time these 2 teams played, March 29th and 30th, Youngstown losing the first game 4-3 in overtime and then winning the second game 2-1. So basically what this boils down to, the game on February 17th, that was a 4-2 win for the Phantoms. The Phantoms at the end of that game picked up an empty net goal. So the pattern is essentially all these games were 1-goal games.
Yeah, one or two plays won them a game.
And 2 of the 3 games that Youngstown lost to Madison were in overtime.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Yep.
So yeah, Youngstown outscoring Green Bay 19-18 in this season series. Youngstown 5 for 22 on the power play. That is 22.7%. Actually, a few points higher than what Youngstown's season power play percentage ended up being. Now, Madison, 6 for 22 on the power play against Youngstown. So Youngstown's penalty kill 72.7 against Madison. So special teams just kind of ended up in a wash with each other. Goals scored just kind of ended up in a wash with each other. The only other real thing I could think to bring up, Youngstown outscoring Madison in the third period 10-5.
I'm trying to make sense of all that.
That's really if you look at all these stats between these 2 teams this season, that's really the only point where the numbers really skew away from each other. Everything is almost identical.
Right.
Except for that third period where in 6 games, Youngstown has outscored Madison 10-5 in the third period.
So basically what you're saying is what you've said several times is this is going to be a razor thin game series, I should say. It's going to be a hell of a series.
This is going to be a coin flip series.
Yeah.
You can't really make one good point and one bad point for either team, why they're going to win, why they're going to lose.
Right. I think both teams match up well. I think the way both teams play kind of, I don't want to say complement each other, but I think they suit each other well. The things that they do well and their little bit of delinquencies that they have. But this Madison team, they're an interesting team. They picked up Austin Bernavec, who played for the NCDP last year. He's leading the team with 71 points. And he's a heck of a player. He's a tall guy out there. He's got 40 goals on the year. He's a force to be reckoned with. And then you go down the line, they have James Hong, who scored the overtime winner the first time at home, and then he had the overtime assist to Kuzma when we lost it overtime the second time. That was this last weekend against them. They're a pretty deep team. They added some high scorers from Minnesota this past month or so. And you scroll down on the bottom, you look at their goalies. They got Carson Musser, who's had a great season this year. He also came from the NCDP last year. And Patrick Brzezinski, if I said his name correctly. Both their goalies are very good. So they're you just compare the 2 teams, points, player to player. It is, like you said, it's almost exactly mirrored as far as how the games ended up, like you laid out.
Now, we can't speak for Madison, nor would we want to. I would, it's just going to boil down to, and it's kind of been the name of the game all season for the Phantoms, is consistency.
Yep, that is the key.
We have seen this team come out against, better teams in the sense of when you look at the records at the end of the season. We've seen this team come out and blow those type of teams away.
Yep.
We've seen them come out and lose a 2-game series with Omaha at home. And that's kind of been the struggle all season is, the consistency of this team. Now, like we talked about earlier, Youngstown's riding a wave of momentum into these playoffs.
Yeah. And I think, what the biggest advantage Youngstown's going to have over Madison this series is the fact
is our home ice advantage that they've always had. They're the top team in the Eastern Conference as far as the fans give it to them. I think they feed off the fans when they get into the game, and that could be the difference in the game is how well they've defended home ice.
Yeah. We're not in the business of making predictions to begin with, so there's no good ever comes from that. To me, it's just going to boil down to which Youngstown Phantoms team shows up.
Yeah, my heart and my brain are both aligned on this one. I know what they can do, and I'm just going to expect them to do nothing more than that.
if the team that showed up against Green Bay the weekend before shows up, there's going to be a lot of happy people in Youngstown by Wednesday. Alrighty, so for the games this coming Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if necessary, all three of these nights, puck drop will be at 7:05. Of course, the games will be, the audio will be streamed on Western Reserve Radio or the video on Flow Hockey, but we don't want people watching from home. Sorry, Western Reserve. I know we have a whole thing with them. We're one of their shows, but I want to see people in the seats. Tickets are still available. You can call the Phantoms box office at 330-747-PUCK. That is 330-747-7825. So we'll take one more break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up this episode. So keep it here one more time with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier. Then make sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
We're back, and that will do it for this edition of the Dump and Chase podcast. A big thanks to Amber Martinelli for joining us for this episode. And as always, a big thanks to all of you for spending some time with us and listening in for a whole nother season here. So again, like we talked about in the last segment, next week's show, basically whatever happens after the first round. We might be back by the end of the week. We might not be back until the next week after. So typically you can hear the show every Wednesday at 5 p.m. on Western Reserve Radio. That's with the playoffs coming up. That's going to be a little different. If I remember correctly, last year it was typically we were being broadcast right before the first home game of a series or of a weekend. So I believe that's what the plan's going to be going forward here. So you can listen in on westernreserveradio.com, the Live 365 or TuneIn apps, the Western Reserve Radio Facebook and Twitter pages, and of course the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. You can hear this show in its podcast format on Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And you can find us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All of these links, including our merch store, can be found at our website, dumpandchasepod.com. So before we get out of here, first of all, to our absent host, Justin Irwin, we're thinking about you, buddy. Hopefully sooner than later, you're thinking of us with full electricity in your house.
Yeah, I'm just picturing him sitting in a chair with a candle.
No, he said he's got a generator, so
yeah.
so gas fumes. The candle probably wouldn't be a good idea with the gas fumes. All right, so to Dan Conley, any final words of wisdom leading into round one of the playoffs?
Yeah. Sam, what's the only thing better than watching hockey at the Cavelli Center?
Free Kit Kats?
That, I guess there's two things. That and watching playoff hockey at the Cavelli Center.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for it.
Little warning to the fans who have been a little bristly with the referees this year. Playoff hockey, refs don't call a lot. Even when it's obvious. This is going to be a whole new animal. So get your blood pressure medication. Make sure everything's good to go coming to these games, especially with refereeing. Playoffs are just an entirely different animal. So as we wrap up, remember that hockey is a sport played on ice with sticks and a puck, and our podcast is the thing you just listen to. See ya. There's some people in my section alone that's going to have a heart attack on Monday.
Although I'd rather let them play than call everything, but either way, it doesn't matter. The refs can't win in that situation.
No.
And nor should they.
You're listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
Sports Betting Network.